AI is rewriting the business playbook, with productivity boosts and faster decision-making coming to every industry. If you're not thinking about AI, you can bet your competition is. This is not where you want to drop the ball. But AI requires a lot of compute power. And with most cloud platforms, the cost for your AI workloads can spiral. That is, unless you're running on OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This was the cloud built for AI, a blazing fast enterprise-grade platform for your infrastructure, database, apps, and all your AI workloads. OCI costs 50% less than other major hyperscalers for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Thousands of businesses have already scored with OCI, including Vodafone, Thomson Reuters, and Suno AI. Now the ball's in your court.
Right now, Oracle can cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI. Minimum financial commitment and other terms apply. Offer ends March 31st. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic.
Hi, friend. It's your inner child calling. And they want churros. A new toy. And a new adventure. Or maybe 5. With the bestest besties on Earth. Find your moment at Walt Disney World Resort.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Where'd you get those shoes? Easy. They're from DSW. Because DSW has the exact right shoes for whatever you're into right now. You know, like the sneakers that make office hours feel like happy hour. The boots that turn grocery aisles into runways. And all the styles that show off the many sides of you, from daydreamer to multitasker and everything in between. Because you do it all in really great shoes. Find a shoe for every you at your DSW store or dsw.com.
Episode 485, How to Budget If You Don't Have Kids with Jay Zigmont.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are talking to all you dinks, all you sinks, all you frugal friends out there who do not have children and mostly do not plan to have children, at least not in the near future. Always have every right to throw them a curveball in the story, but right now don't plan to have children.
Yeah, I talked with Jay on his podcast recently, and so now we're having him on ours to recognize that there's a good percentage of the population who this is our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, Jen has 2 children. Eric and I do not. We're solidly in our 30s. So recognizing that this advice needs to be out there. Like, it's not the most common experience for people, but it is still an experience for many of us. And to recognize that some of the traditional personal finance advice doesn't actually fit us. And so Jay is specifically geared towards working with people who don't have children and helping them to define what their lives can look like, how their finances may look different. He also counsels couples. So a lot of research and wisdom coming from him. He wrote a book on being child-free. So we're excited to be able to hear from him on this really important topic.
But first, this episode is brought to you by Beating Around the Bush. I'm not going to do it. This episode brought to you by the Friendletter. Every week, we send out via email where to find free events, free food, what you should be doing to stay on top of your spending habits and your finances. And if that sounds like something you need, you want that thrice weekly reminder, then head to frugalfriendspodcast.com to sign up for free. It's really fun. Always some good suggestions and ideas in there. And we're going to have Jay's interview linked in there. Jay is a PhD, MBA, and certified financial planner who works exclusively with couples and singles who are and plan to remain permanently childless. And he is currently the first and only life and financial planning firm dedicated to serving child-free people. So and honestly, there was some just really good life advice in this episode. So I'm excited for you to hear it.
If you're listening and you're like, oh, I do have kids, maybe should I turn it off? I'd say keep going, because there's definitely some conversation that we have that I think is good for all people. So glad to have you here. Again, Jay's book is called Child Free Wealth. So let's get into it.
Jay, welcome to Frugal Friends. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I had a great time coming on your show, and we are excited to have you on ours to talk about the ways that our money can look different for those of us who don't have children. So from your perspective, your expertise, Jay, I'm curious to hear what you've seen are the biggest differences in money management for people without kids compared to those who do have kids.
Yeah, so I use the term child-free. So just for definitions, that's people who don't have kids, don't plan on having kids ever. It's not like you're child-free for the weekend. So like when I'm talking about people who don't have kids, like it's a lifetime thing versus not yet. And when you're doing that, the interesting thing is your goals are different. So for parents, there's kind of this standard life script. You go to school, you get married, you have kids. It's the American dream. The house, the 2.5 kids, the white picket fence. But for child-free people, it's a different path. And it's not better or worse, it's just different. So for example, how much money you pass on to the next generation is not a priority for most child-free people. For my wife and I, our nephews get what's left over, but if they get 10 grand or 100 grand, that's fine. If they get $1 million, we made a mistake. Like there actually can be too much money as a child-free person. And if that's the case, you can actually do different things with your money, and having a high net worth may not be the goal. To the point where I have a lot of child-free folks that get to kind of mid-30s, mid-40s. And I tell them, hey, you're going to have a problem. You're going to die with too much money, which just sounds really weird, but it's true. And if that's the case, how do you spend your money either on the people you love, the things you want to give, on yourself, and shift your life to match the life you want to live?
Yeah, I think, who you're talking to is definitely a minority, but we still exist. We still matter, right?
It's 25% of the US. So yes, it's a minority, but in comparison, the LGBTQ plus community is 8% of the US. And about 50% of the LGBTQ plus community is child-free. So we're talking about a huge, like 1 in 4 Americans. So it's not like it's like, 3 people down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it still is a lot of people, but still we are ingesting typical personal finance education and advice. And I know even for myself, this is Jill speaking, I don't have kids. And all of the traditional advice is, 529, save for kids' retirement. Like these are part of the steps that you're supposed to be taking. And then, invest in retirement, not just for yourselves, but what do you want to leave behind, as you're saying, to kids. And so there is quite a bit that can be reoriented for not just the long term, but what I'm hearing you describe is some of the short term too, with how we're spending money now if we don't have some of these more longer term goals.
Yeah. And, if you've been around finance for long enough, you've probably heard of the 7 baby steps. We actually have a program, I put out a new book we call the 8 no baby steps, and a lot of the basics like getting on a budget, getting out of debt, you have an emergency fund, that's all the same. But then it's like, what am I doing with my money? What's the impact I want to make? What brings me joy? And really, a lot of child-free people, kind of that mid-30s, mid-40s, hit the child-free midlife crisis, which is, I've hit my personal, professional, financial goals. And like, now what? What's the point of working just to put a bunch of money in the bank if I'm not enjoying it? What's the point of doing the standard process if it doesn't fit my life?
So what is, after the basics are met, because the basics will be the same for child versus child-free. What is that first differentiating step that child-free people should be making with their money?
Yeah, so our no baby step 4 is save and invest towards your goals. And that's specific because, interestingly enough, a lot of child-free folks don't want to retire. or like not the classic retirement. I have a lot of clients that are like therapists and they want to like cut back from 4 days of work to 2 of seeing clients, something like that. So if retirement's not your goal, what do you want to save towards? Even things like buying a house are a choice for child-free people, not a requirement. So what it really requires is the way we do it is you have to plan for your life first, then your finances. Like, what is it that matters to you? If you're working in a couple, often we'll have couples approach something we call the garter and the rose, where one's providing support and one's growing. Well, how do we invest in that person that's growing? That could be moving. That could be, going back to school. It could be anything. For my wife and I, she got offered a job 1,200 miles away. We packed up the dogs and the cat and went. I mean, the biggest hassle was putting 2 mastiffs in the back of a Prius, which is hilarious to see. But like, we can invest our money in us and the life we want to live rather than just like putting it mindlessly into a retirement account, which goes against a lot of the basic, tenets of financial planning.
Okay, this is a little bit of a side tangent, but this gardener and grower piece, is this something you talk about a lot with couples, something that you see like go in seasonality? Can you say more about this concept?
Yeah. So originally, I didn't come up with it. Like, I can't take credit for it. It's called the garden and the flower, but I always called the garden and the rose because my wife is no just any flower. She's a rose. So
Yes.
like what we do is kind of an interesting thing that happens with couples in that it's really hard to find 2 careers at the same level, at the same time, at the same place. So my wife and I were both PhDs. We both spent some time in academia. And in academics, they always have like kind of the position for the tenure track person. And then they have this thing called the trailing spouse, which to me just sounds terrible. It's like the leftover job for somebody like, you're not as good as your spouse. Here's what we give you. So trying to get away from that with the garden and the rose is you have a conscious effort to take turns in those roles. Because I personally don't think it's possible. There's a book out there, like the 80% marriage, like you both settle 80% of what you want. I think that just causes resentment, where instead if we're taking turns, we both get that opportunity to grow. And it doesn't have to be career. So for me, when I'm the rose, I'm going to get in a boat and travel the world. That's already planned 5 to 7 years down the road from now. That's what we're doing. And when we do this with couples, that awareness that we're going to take turns goes a long way because it allows the rose to be a little more selfish because that's intentional because they know the gardener knows, hey, they're going to get a turn. And the rose knows this is my turn. And when you have that like good conversation about it, it gets away from a lot of the resentment or, the judgments or other things. And it tends to work out.
Yeah, I think you're identifying a lot of the fluidity that can happen in a life lived of adulthood without having children and some of this negotiation that happens. I've never put those words to it, but Eric and I have experienced this so many times. I've gotten my master's degree while married and started a business, and he started a business, and there's been different times where we've kind of ebbed and flowed in that way, and we've appreciated that flexibility. I think a lot of that was available to us because we don't have children and some of those typical constraints that can happen with that. But I think what you're saying here is having even the language to put around it can help to define it a little bit more, have a little bit more of that give and take and reciprocity. And I just appreciate kind of the underlying awareness of life can look different. And that's okay. We can give ourselves permission to not just say, well, okay, I won't invest in a 529 because I don't have kids, but there's a whole other conversation that can be happening here of what do we want with life, both now and in the future, beyond just thinking we just have to tweak a couple of little things here.
Yeah. I mean, even like I have kids and I'm sitting here thinking, this is such a healthy conversation. Like we just launched a book and my husband is doing a lot more of the, home caregiving, and I'm off a lot more doing work stuff. But, when this all dies down, it can switch back and forth, and it has before. So like, this is just healthy advice, no matter whether you're child-free for life, child-free for now, or like in a, a gaggle of children.
Just a whole
Yeah.
gaggle.
A gaggle.
A gaggle. How many is that? 6?
2. For me, it's 2.
I mean, anything over 0 is a gaggle to me. But like, so the one thing I'm going to challenge both of you on is having the conversation up front of like, what are the roles and to what time frame? And it's not a hard and fast time frame, but it really helps to have that clarity versus just falling into it. A lot of folks do fall into it. You know, hey, I'm busy at work or whatever. But just that awareness that I'm going to lean on you for a little bit of time and then you get to lean on me tends to help the conversation.
Yeah, I wish we had I wish I'd had this insight and could have had a clearer conversation with my husband before all of this. Like, we still had the conversation, but I didn't know the words to use or like Gardner and Rose. I think that would have been really helpful.
We might be getting at some of this already, but what would you say, Jay, are the biggest mistakes that child-free people can make with their money?
So I think when you talk about mistakes, I try not to like shame people like, you did that wrong, you know. But what tends to happen with child-free folks is they've left the standard life script. So they're on their own path, they're doing their own thing, but then they get pulled back to the standard life script for other things. So let's talk about buying a house, for example. Buying a house, if you have kids and you're going to stay in the school system and you have family in the area, I get it. If you're child-free and you're going to move every 3 to 5 years, renting is a perfectly fine choice. You know, my wife and I sold our house and we rent. And I'm a big fan of renting because it gives you flexibility. But the standard life script says the only way to get ahead is to buy a house, buy real estate, do all this other things. And you end up with kind of head trash between the life you want to live and what other people are saying you do. And to the point, I will ask my client, whose voice is in your head saying you got to do that? And it's very rarely there. It's culture, it's religion, it's parents, and I'm like, they're not living the same life as you. Why are you listening to them? And then they go, well, but I don't know any other option. Okay, well, at least that I can work through. But it's that awareness of I'm getting pulled back to this standard script that doesn't fit me.
Yes, that is so much when we talk about spending and people are trying to justify what they spend money on with like, I need this or I deserve this. And like hearing like, what are the voices in your head saying that you need to buy this or that this is a problem that you need to solve by purchasing something. And it's usually like not theirs.
Yep. Yeah. And we're talking about a house purchase. So we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I had somebody the other day, I'm like, we always try to like balance things, say, how do we make your finances simple so your life can be amazing? They're going to be a landlord. And I said, okay, that's not going to make your finances more simple. And they said, okay, great. I said, and nobody's ever told me being a landlord makes your life more amazing. Like, you know, like you're dealing with renters, you're dealing with, and they're like, you're right. But my dad says I got to get, you know, and I'm like, okay. Your dad bought a house in the 1960s when it was $16,000. Okay. Like it's not the same world and you're not living the same life.
So true.
Yeah. I also am a landlord and I agree with that.
Yeah. Is it worth it? Is the question. And like, I'm like, okay, we can invest you in a real estate investment trust and you don't have to do any work if you really want access to real estate. Like, but you're told you have to do this because that's what's expected.
Creating a solid financial plan for you and your family should include term life insurance. That's where Fabric by Gerber Life comes in. Fabric offers flexible term life insurance to give you peace of mind and protects your loved ones financially in case the unexpected happens.
Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done right from your couch, all online and on your schedule. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required.
This is an important thing to do, especially if you've got kids and certainly if you're young and healthy. The time to lock in low rates is now. Even if you have life insurance through your employer, it may not offer enough protection for your family, and it may not follow you if you leave your job.
Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/frugal. That's meetfabric.com/frugal, MEET fabric.com/frugal. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions.
Okay, business leaders, are you playing defense or are you on the offense? Are you just, excuse me, hey, I'm trying to talk business here. As I was saying, are you here just to play or are you playing to win? If you're in it to win, meet your next MVP, NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is your full business management system in one suite. With NetSuite, you're running your accounting, your financials, HR, e-commerce, and more, all from your online dashboard. One source of truth means every department's working from the same numbers with no data delays. And with AI embedded throughout, you're automating manual tasks, plus getting fast insights for your next move. Whether you're competing on your home turf or looking to conquer international markets, NetSuite helps you get the W. Over 40,000 businesses have already made the move to NetSuite, the #1 cloud ERP.
Right now, get the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/stereo. Get this free guide at netsuite.com/stereo.
Okay, guys.
If you're in a food slump, struggle to cook at home, or just in a really busy season, we recommend trying out HelloFresh, who are now the owners of Every Plate, with an even greater variety of meals. You can now enjoy the goodness of both brands with a Frugal Friends discount.
HelloFresh cuts out the need for meal planning and grocery shopping and offers 50 wholesome meals to choose from each week, delivered straight to your door. Plus, they have new options for ready-made meals that take just 3 minutes to prep.
I personally love HelloFresh for the opportunity to learn new skills in the kitchen and try flavor combinations I never would have thought of. It makes eating at home much more efficient without sacrificing flavor or health goals. Plus, it helps me reduce food waste.
Get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/frugal10FM. One item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/frugal10FM.
She's seen Encanto more times than she can count. And she can count to 10. She mentioned Mirabel in every conversation. But the moment she actually met Mirabel, she was speechless. That's pura magia. Find yours at Walt Disney World Resort.
5 years, 10 months, and 2 days. That's how long it took to grow the 38 inches to ride on Cali River Rapids. But the moment the wait finally ended, that was pura magia. Discover it at Walt Disney World Resort.
I am really interested in the difference, how you would counsel someone who is a single, like child-free because they are single and single intentionally versus couples. Like, what do you, what like financial advice do you give to the person who is not in a relationship?
So 32% of childless folks will never marry, as opposed to 2.5% of parents. So we're talking about a third of our folks are what we call soloists, single with no kids. Some people don't like the single term, so we use soloist. And it costs between $400,000 and $1 million across your lifetime to be single. Because like you can't split like the rent, you can't split the electric bill, you can't split the groceries. And people don't catch that. Like our society is not made for singles. Mm-hmm. You know, like we really should have some community housing, things we can share, different things, but it just doesn't exist. And what happens for our soloists is they have a lot of choices. You know, the way we say it is living a life of child-free wealthy means you have more time, money, and freedom to do what you enjoy. Doesn't mean you're rich. Income disparities are still the same. But then it's like almost too many choices. Like if you don't have a limit to where you can live, what do you do? And when we talk to soloists, we're like, maybe you need an accountability partner to bounce things off of. Someone that can work with you on it. And it doesn't have to be a professional. It can be a friend, it can be whatever. But someone that can speak into your life to just be a sounding board, which sounds simple, but that's actually hard to find somebody you feel comfortable talking about your money. You know, when I did my first book, I did a whole bunch of interviews and I found out people would rather talk about their sex life than their money. Like, you know, it's like this like taboo thing. I'm like, no. And then the hardest part for single folks may actually be towards the end of life of who makes decisions for me when I can't, which is often overlooked. You know, if you have kids, your next of kin tends to be that default choice. If you're in a couple, your spouse might be the first choice. But if you're child-free, you're single, who does that? And if you don't have a will in place, you don't have power of attorney in place, all that, the government's making the decisions for you. which I'm not getting political. I'm like, I don't care which side you're on. Nobody trusts the government to make decisions for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really hard for single folks, to the point where it's something I've been working on for about 3 years now, a solution for this. And we hope to have a solution coming out from our company later in the year on this. But in California or Arizona, you can pay a professional to do this, called professional fiduciary. In the other states, you can't. So if you're in the other 48 states, you're like, hey, I need somebody to be my medical power of attorney, my financial power of attorney, my executor. You got to find a friend you like. And I had somebody email me the other day. She's 71. And you ever read an email, you can see the panic in the email? Like you can, like this is one of those. And she's like, I'm 71. I'm single. I've got a little bit of money, but not a lot. The only family I have is a nephew across country that I've never met. How do I find somebody to make these decisions for me? And I felt bad because my answer was like, she's in Washington. I'm like, I don't have an answer in Washington right now. We're working on trying to solve it. But like, you can see this panic. And one of the problems is if she names her nephew, like, oh, she was like, can I give him the money in my will? You can. But if you name him in your will and he's also the one putting you in the home, he might put you in the not so good home in order to save money so he gets more in the will. Like, you think those things don't happen, but that abuse does. And these are the type of things that soloists have to deal with. And there's not a solution. Like, I talked to an expert on this who's been doing this for a decade, working with solos only. And she's like, my best solution is live in a trailer park where everybody has a small community together, or like a Golden Girls home. But that doesn't always work, at least not for the last friend to live.
I think my next business is creating Golden Girls homes. I think that is what I want to get into.
So I had a real estate expert reach out to me, and he was trying to get into working with dinks and different things, and that's doing from no kids. And I said to him, I said, you're missing the boat. The answer is these community homes, whatever you want to call them, but they have to be fun. You know, it's like I had somebody for one of my books, she wants to buy a castle, and every one of the single ladies gets a different room in the castle, and they all live in a castle for their last days. I was like, you know, that would actually work. Like, I mean, that'd be awesome.
Wow.
As long as it has an elevator.
That is
We're
right.
good.
I know.
Right. But I'm like, just to make sure it's not too drafty. But like, you know, we have not as a society gotten to understand there are so many people out there that are living child-free lives. But our system is all based on still kind of the nuclear family, the American dream, all that. And it's just a challenge.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that if somebody single with no kids is listening right now, what's kind of maybe one protection they can put in place, or one thing you think they might want to change about their planning right now?
So if I had to pick just one thing, I would get something on paper for who makes decisions for you, your will, your power of attorney. And by the way, you can do that cheaply. I mean, there's a website called freewill.com. Like, you can get it for free. Like, besides getting a notary, you might have to pay whatever, $10 for. But even if you don't have a best answer for who makes decisions for you, your friend that you kind of think is a better answer is probably a better answer than a random government person. And then you can specify in your will who gets your stuff. Because if you don't, the government gets it. I was just meeting with a banking regulator, and I asked them, what's your process if somebody dies, you know, don't have kids? They said they post it on their website. And I'm like, so I've got to look at all 50 states across the country, like, I guess every week, to see if my cousin died. And they're like, well, yeah, people don't reach out to us. And then if they don't reach out, it just goes to the government's pocket, which is part of the reason why the government doesn't look. So if you got nothing else you can do, get the paperwork done. It's not going to cost you much. And you can at least get it, you know, you can update it whenever you want later, but get your first set. I don't care what age you are.
These long-term considerations are so helpful and often not on our radar for any of us to be considering a will and, you know, what we want to happen for us medically and just assigning beneficiaries. Like, these things are very important. And I also like what you're describing here of thinking bigger picture. What do I want for my life? To be able to know it doesn't have to look status quo. It doesn't have to mean that I am buying a house. And it could mean that I get to have, as you said, you know, more time flexibility, more freedom, more money in my pocket. As we distill that down then for kind of the day-to-day or month-to-month, like our present moments, how how do you counsel people in what making a spending plan looks like then? If we've been able to identify, okay, I've got this vision now for what I want my life to look like, how do we then incorporate that into the here and now?
So we've tracked it with our clients, and we're a financial planning firm, so we do a lot of work with, our focus is child-free folks. We do a lot of work on investments, all the things. We actually spend more time talking about spending money than saving money. Because what happens is if you're good at saving, like you just like that's your habit, and it's actually harder to teach you how to spend money. So when I'm talking about a spending plan, it's usually getting people to spend more, not cut back. And that sounds a little different, but I'm trying to make sure they're getting to that goal. If they don't care about how much money they pass on the next generation, we don't want them to die with millions. We want to match them. And what tends to happen is that first step you're talking about, like, I have a plan for my life. That's the hardest one. Most people don't have that answer. That takes forever to figure out. Once we have it, we will set goals. So I will set actually minimum spending goals on the things that matter to them. For example, a lot of our clients are travel enthusiasts. They just love travel. Good thing about being child-free is like you can pick a random time of the year and travel. And, you can find the cheaper times. You can go random places. And what we'll often do is we'll say, all right, we want you to spend more on travel. And they start getting into kind of this guilt thing about like, well, can I really spend that on me? Is it okay for me to spend that much? And what we'll try to do is kind of to offset it is we'll say, all right, how about we do an equal amount of giving to the charities that matter to you or the people that matter to you as we do to travel? I have a couple right now we're working on, hey, I want you to travel for $100,000 a year and give away $100,000 a year, which sounds crazy. But at the end of the year, I'll ask them, like, which did you get more out of, the giving or the travel? Most of the times it's the giving. So we can find ways to shift their mindset around money. It's much like what you've got in your book of like, how does it match your values, the impact you want to make, the bigger picture stuff. And it's interesting. Once they get used to it, they can start spending a bit more. But I still got people with, millions and millions of dollars cutting coupons. And I'm like, first of all, there's apps for that now, but like,
Wow.
You don't need to cut coupons anymore. Like, you're okay. Do you really want to spend hours cutting coupons? And I did have one client go, I enjoy it. I'm like, okay, fine. Like if that's you enjoy. But it's that mindset that becomes tough to deal with.
How do you help child-free people identify what is excess? Because like for someone like me, I'm going to need money. I'm not imagining that there's going to be anyone to care for me. I'll probably outlive my husband if we just have the status quo life expectancy. So I do want to invest, but I'm also hearing what you're saying, that there's all these other demands on money that, people with kids have that I don't have. But how will I know, but I could spend this? I actually don't have to do all of these other things with my money. How can I know what that excess is?
Yeah. So the first thing is I really don't truly want you dying with zero. Like, I don't want you like at the end, having to work at Walmart to pay the bills. Like that's the worst outcome. So what we're going to do is we create a die with zero safety net is what we call it, where we have a plan for long-term care. So if you came to me as a client, we'd actually figure out whether you put money aside for long-term care or insurance, which long-term care is really expensive. It's $115,000 a year. Men will spend 2.2 years in care, women 3.7. We're talking about $500,000 today. But we'll figure out that plan for long-term care. We'll put off getting Social Security till 70. We'll have a little cash cushion. And then what I'll show you is in the system how much money you're going to die with. Now, this is where we're doing a Monte Carlo simulation, other things. We're looking at the expected return on investments. That's all guesstimate work. But what tends to happen is people realize they hit their goal a long time ago. So a lot of folks use kind of like that safe withdrawal rate number of 4%. They'll take their expenses times 25. That's how much I have to have for retirement. That all assumes you want to pass on money to the next generation. Doesn't fit child-free people. So, if you and your husband sat down with me, I'd say, okay, you've got your safety net. This is what you need at the end. This is what you have left. How do we bend the curve on your net worth so it stops always going up? The problem is if you've got a kind of quote unquote standard financial advisor who's charging you a percentage of your assets, it's asset under management fee, there's a conflict of interest because your advisor always wants it to go up because that means their salary goes up. So you've got to like find somebody that's willing to work with you and go, okay, let's make an active effort to bring this down over time. And what normally happens is for the people kind of 30s and 40s, it means giving up that job you hate and doing something you enjoy. It might slow down your retirement, but you're okay. Or it might mean going back to school. I don't know why I have a lot of folks that want to go back and be a librarian. Sounds like a cool job. I don't know.
Love librarians.
Right. But like, how do you do that? And I think what happens is the risk, and it sounds like you and your husband are getting close to this, is people get into mindlessly saving. Like they just always been saving, always put in the retirement. And at some point, it can be too much.
I also appreciate how we're talking about numbers, right? And some of the math and the strategy to that, but also lifestyle pieces that we can also be exploring, that there could then be seasons where we can step back a little bit. We don't have to be hustling so hard. And just that awareness for what does the season require of me? What's actually enough when it comes to money? And how can I reorient and make sure that I'm both enjoying my present life and working towards future goals, but that both matter in this equation.
Yeah, we're not doing YOLO, okay? Like this is not like, let me just spend it all and be broke at the end. No, it's a definite plan that matches your life.
Do you know what else is a definite plan that matches our life, our lifestyle,
yeah, whether
our
you have
podcast?
kids or not.
The Bill of the Week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the Bill of the Week.
Jay, every week we invite our guests and listeners, after yelling at them, of course, to share with us their bill for the week. And we are excited to hear yours.
So, okay, I've got a love-hate thing with one bill. All right. My splurge, this kind of personal splurge, is I've got all the streaming services, like pretty much, except for Apple TV annoys the living daylights out of me. Because it's $10 a month. Okay, it's not a lot of money. But I run out of shows on there almost every time. You know, I'm getting to the last couple episodes of Silo, and then this is going away. But like, I know I can afford the $10, but for some reason, the fact that I'm not going to touch it for a month or two bothers me for that one streaming service, but not the others.
It is so interesting because Apple has prioritized quality over quantity, but it kind of shoots them in the foot. Like, because we've got this going on.
Yeah. I mean, you know, my Netflix, I've never canceled because there's always something I can find on there. Now,
ain't gonna be good.
I was going to say, like, there's some stuff I watch while I'm doing other work because it's pointless. But like, I think, you know, people get like, there's a lot of stuff on subscriptions and should you have a whole bunch, whatever. Actually, the best financial would be like, I watched this for 3 months, then I cancel that and I go to another streaming. I'm like, that's way too much work. And I don't commit to anything. Like, you know, this show this week, I'm watching Tulsa King on Paramount. Cool. And then I'm like, I might skip that for a little bit and go over to Hulu. But Apple TV, you're right. There's something wrong because I've canceled it probably half a dozen times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same issue here. And it's making me realize that then sometimes apparently I'm paying $10 a month just for that one show. And remember when we used to be able to buy entire DVD sets of a show for $10? Like, and here we are potentially paying $20 to $30 to watch it over the course of a couple of months.
Yeah.
I think this is the double-edged sword of being aware of our money. Even if you can afford something, I think we still value being good stewards of the resource. And if we don't feel like we're getting good value in return, then yeah, it's gonna irk me too. I'm with you, Jay.
I have been so interested in Apple TV shows, but yeah, I've never subscribed, so I don't know what they're like. But I've heard great things.
Guess they'll never sponsor us now.
I was going to say, like, you've gone the wrong direction if you want that. But well, I mean, they've got some good shows, but like, as soon as I'm done with that update, I'm like, I'm gone.
Yeah. Great point. Love that,
That's a good
Bill.
one.
If you all listening have a bill that you want to submit, if it has to do with subscription services you have a love-hate relationship with, bills you don't mind paying, bills you love paying, a person named Bill, whether or not you love or hate them, frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill. We can't wait to hear it.
She's seen Encanto more times than she can count. And she can count to 10. She mentioned Mirabel in every conversation. But the moment she actually met Mirabel, she was speechless. That's pura magia. Find yours at Walt Disney World Resort.
5 years, 10 months, and 2 days. That's how long it took to grow the 38 inches to ride on Cali River Rapids. But the moment the wait finally ended, that was pura magia. Discover it at Walt Disney World Resort.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
During tax season, your sensitive info does a lot of traveling to places you can't control. Stopping off at payroll, your accountant or tax preparer, and countless other data centers on its way to the IRS. Any of them can expose you to identity theft because they all have the info on your W-2, just the ticket for criminals to steal your identity. No wonder the IRS reported tax fraud due to identity theft went up 20% last year. You need LifeLock. They monitor millions of data points per second and alert you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's U.S.-based restoration specialists will fix it, backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. And restoration is guaranteed, or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Get LifeLock protection for tax season and beyond. Join now and save up to 40% your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code IHEART or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Upgrade the whole team at Lenovo.com. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Powered by Intel Core Ultra processors, so you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device. Win the tech search for business PCs at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. And now it's time for the lightning round.
All right. Now in our vulnerability round, we're all going to go. And our question today is, she's changed. As soon as I go to read the question, she has changed the screen.
Up. Go for it.
What is your favorite way to spend money? Jay?
So I already talked about streaming services. That is one of them. But the other one is I'm a video game guy. Like I buy a whole bunch of games, but I'll tell you, my Steam collection is a bunch of games I haven't played yet. But there's New Civilization coming out in a month or so. So that's where I'm going to spend some money and hopefully get to spend a lot of time.
Do you enjoy the TV shows that are based off of games? Are those fun for you?
They're 50-50. So the Fallout show was great.
Yeah, I did enjoy Fallout.
A lot of the other ones, I'm like, like they made it too campy, too gamey. Like you missed the show on the way by.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not a all or nothing. Nice. My favorite is travel. I just love to travel. It is easy for me to say no to a lot of other things, but to be able to get on a plane, go places, see new sights, enjoy some beautiful things, different cultures, that's my favorite. And I love dropping some money on some of the luxurious things. Like I am not doing hostels anymore. I know I'm a frugal friend, but that was for my 20s. These days it's 4 stars or higher. And yeah, it just brings me so much joy.
Okay, I'm over here talking about spending $100 on a game, and you're over here spending 10 grand on the travel. Like, I didn't know we were going that level. I mean,
what do you love?
Okay, I'm not there. You'll bring it back down. I'll bring us back down. And I would say mine is food. I love to grocery shop. I love to get takeout.
You love grocery shopping?
I actually do. But I do it on my phone.
Okay.
It's my online shopping
That's
substitute.
your video game.
That is my video game.
You put the Nintendo Switch to get your groceries.
I really love it. Hits my I love going to Costco. I just love buying food and snacks. I just love it. That is.
Is there any particular food lately you're loving to buy?
I love going to Costco because that I do shop in store. So really anything at Costco right now or Sam's Club. I just alternate with the membership so I can get the new member deal.
Tell me you have kids without telling me you have kids.
Okay, I like my snacks and so does my wife, but I don't enjoy shopping for them. I just enjoy eating them.
I like shopping for them.
She does.
I do.
She likes being in and around food, getting food, eating food, talking about food.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, this has been very fun. Thanks for joining us. If people want to be around you talking about child-free things, money, where can they get more from you?
Yeah, so the new book's The Child-Free Guide to Life and Money, out in stores now. Child-Free Wealth on all the socials, except for Twitter, because he thinks child-free people should not have a vote. And childfreewealth.com.
Nice.
Perfect.
And we saw it at Barnes & Noble when we were going to sign our book. So it's
out
wherever
there.
books are sold.
Yep.
Thanks, Jay.
I really loved the idea of the garden and the rose. And I think it's definitely something that it's language I will use more frequently to define our seasons, because we talk about honoring your season. And when we have language to define our season, it becomes easier to honor it.
Yeah, I think it's really illuminating too to be able to say, my season might even be a little different from the season that I'm sharing a household with, that it's not necessarily going to feel or look the same for you and your spouse, or if you do have kids, you and your children. And being able to communicate about those things of here's what we both want long term, but in order to get there, I'm going to need to scale back or go full force. And here's what we need to be able to do for one another in kind of that ebb and flow that can happen. But I think Jay brought up a good point that without talking about it, things can go really awry. And I think similarly, just the overarching piece that he was laying out for us, again, that I think is important for all people, regardless of whether or not you have children, to be looking at, what do I want out of life? And do I have to, does it have to look status quo? Or can I throw a curveball? Can I do these other things? Can I experience greater degrees of flexibility with the ways that I spend money? I just think that these are really important questions to be asking. So I'm really glad that he brought these questions to the surface.
Yeah.
So we hope that this was helpful for you all. We really appreciate you listening. We also really appreciate those of you who are leaving very kind reviews of the book. That's right.
Yes.
Our book, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke. It is now out there. And I know that you've heard us talking about our book for a very long time, but it's finally released into the world, and it now is forever and always available for purchase. And if you have purchased it, reviews go a long way, same as they did with the podcast. It's very helpful on a book. So we'd love it if you got the book anywhere books are bought and left us a review wherever you bought the book. You can leave one on Amazon. That's where this one came from Kay Montgomery, 5 stars. This was about Buy What You Love Without Going Broke. They said, I wasn't in debt, so I thought I was responsible with money, but I wasn't investing. I barely had enough to cover an emergency. I was mindlessly spending on stuff that didn't matter. Buy What You Love Without Going Broke is a wonderful book that talks about how to shift your mindset regarding the money you spend and what you want your money to be able to do with you. I now think about each purchase and if it's something that is in alignment with what I want in life. Is this helping me towards my goals? Is this something that I value? Buy What You Love Without Going Broke is more of a mindset shift than a how to save money book, although it talks about that too. If you feel like you have struggled with money and how you spend, but you want to get your finances in order, this is a great book to read. I also highly recommend listening to the Frugal Friends podcast too. Kay Montgomery.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's such a good summary of the book because I think we've described that it's not an exact step-by-step formulaic approach to finances. It is a lot more of that behavioral psychology and mindset and self-understanding that gets incorporated and woven into money. While there is still tangible takeaways from the book and best practices, we dig a little bit deeper. So I'm glad that Kay Montgomery is experiencing that.
Thank you so much for reading. If you want to check out the book, head to buywhatyoulovebook.com. With every purchase, you will get over $200 worth of free resources at the resources page listed in the book. And if you liked the book, please leave a review wherever you purchased it or on Amazon or Goodreads. It helps us so much get the book into more hands.
See you next time.
Bye.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni.
So this is the first podcast episode we're recording in the new year because you all know us. We're a month ahead on recording
and
our
we're
podcast
out of order,
episodes.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So
a month ahead, out of order. But where it lands for us is this is the first time in the new year that we're recording. And fun fact for you all is that we got an office space. So we are no longer in our homes. We are downtown St. Petersburg in a studio that we built out in a co-working space. And it's been a friggin' blast.
Such a blast. I am digging it. And it has been a fantastic use of our business money.
I will be posting, if I haven't already, on our Instagram, just some of the behind the scenes of the build out of our studio and kind of how it's all come together so you all can have a visual, because we're also planning on doing more YouTube stuff this year. So it's all coming together, but this has been very fun. Like there's people who are walking by the office. We've got a little cute hot pink on air sign so that people can know to be a little bit quieter when they walk by. But there's just so much more action happening as we're recording, and that's been fun.
Yeah, it will be a fun minimum of 6 months. That's how long
we can't afford it after 6 months, then we're out of here. But
we will when the YouTube videos are up, we will really need you guys to stream those. And it won't be podcast episodes like this. It's going to be very new and very exciting. And we're very
new. It's very new.
Very new. No one's ever done it before. Just kidding. But it is exciting.
Yeah.
And I think you guys will like it. We're not going to bore you with the same thing most other podcasts are doing. So that is
a little teaser, a little tantalizing teaser.
We kind of looked at what other podcasts were doing and we were like, I don't really care to watch that. What do I want to watch?
Ooh, stay tuned for what we think you want to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on what your kids are spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely. And parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/iHeart.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
I think my battery's dead.
With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one?
We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery?
We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
The new year's here. It's the perfect time to refresh those household essentials and score some cashback rewards with Colgate-Palmolive. From toothpaste to dish soap, chances are you've got Colgate-Palmolive products on your shopping list and in your house right now. We're talking brands like Colgate, Soft Soap, Palmolive, Irish Spring, Fabuloso, and Tom's of Maine. And right now, you can get up to a $10 digital Visa prepaid card when you buy up to $30 of Colgate-Palmolive products. Here's how it works. Spend $20 on their products, get $5. Spend $30, get a $10 reward. All you do is shop your favorite brands, snap a pic of your receipt, and upload it to cprewards.com. It's so easy. That's cprewards.com. So grab what you need, or maybe try something new, and get rewarded just for doing your usual shopping. And start your year fresh by earning cashback rewards with Colgate-Palmolive. Rewards available while supplies last. Limits apply. U.S. only. 1/1/25 through 3/31/25. For full terms and conditions, visit cprewards.com.
Hey, Janice Torres here.
And I'm Austin Hankwitz.
We're the hosts of Mind the Business Small Business Success Stories, produced by Ruby Studio and Intuit QuickBooks. Catch up on seasons 1 and 2 and join us for a brand new season of the podcast as we talk to small business owners about how they manage and grow their businesses with the help of platforms like Intuit QuickBooks.
Listen to Mind the Business Small Business Success Stories on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.